What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on these analysis. We're going to be checking out MSTR and Bitcoin today. Right now in after hours market on Robinhood, MSTR is sitting at around 321. So we're sitting almost at the top of this piece right here, this structure. But the weekly close is what truly matters. And we closed at 308. We are looking for some kind of resistance off of the structure. Hopefully it can break through and close this week above the structure and use this as a floor to continue up higher and start playing with this structure over here and eventually this trend line at higher targets. Of course, since we closed underneath this key support and resistance, it is acting as a ceiling now. So the odds are increasing of a push up, retest, and continuation down further. Now, it's not guaranteed that we make it all the way down to the structure or make it down past this wick at all. We can always, have a mirroring candle of this and have this next candle be green and mirror this exact same one to the upside. That would be the bullish case, of course. And when you look on the daily, if we try to draw some kind of structure, it's a little funny in here, but let's see if I can put something together here. This is where we could potentially find that next structure if we were to continue on down before making it down to this 257 to 244. Maybe we land somewhere in this 280 to 271 if this ends up acting as a ceiling. Like I said, we can always have a V-shaped recovery and flow right back into this range and continue moving. But that's what we need to be looking for MSTR. Ideally, we want to close on the weekly at 324 or higher. That's going to be the best case to get this thing moving back upwards. And it's still early on, but if we were to see some kind of price action where price gets a V-shaped recovery, we come back here, we find support and start pushing up higher, that's going to be good because now that's going to indicate upside because we already have a left shoulder established. We're forming a head right now, potentially, if this bullish case plays out. And then if we get that push up with the rejection, find support off of here, that would be the right shoulder. And now you have an inverse head and shoulders playing out, which indicates higher prices. I'm not saying that that's going to play out, but that's something to watch for because it is starting to form. It's already formed a left shoulder and potentially the head. So keep an eye out for that. That's on the bullish side. Bearish side, of course, we've already talked about it. It would just be this continuation of this bear flag that we have going on here. So we have this first piece here and the second leg. It almost played out. So remember, they don't have to play out 100% of the time, or the whole move doesn't have to play out. It can partially play out. It almost did. We went to 292. That bear flag was calling for 285. That's pretty much good enough for me. That's practically the whole move. But we might end up playing out the whole thing and going down to the 285 mark. And I think if we make it to 285, then we probably touch this 280 mark, and that's potentially where we find a floor if Bitcoin starts to, find some life, which it seems like it is trying to do that as we're pushing to 112. We surpassed 112 shortly, and then we're back underneath it. But we're going to go over Bitcoin in a little bit here. Of course, if Bitcoin can start to rally up, then that's going to trickle down into MSTR, or it should at least. On MSTR divided by IBIT, kind of in the same scenario where we're looking for a close above the structure to start playing with these areas over here. We want to get that close, bounce, and then start playing in this area. And eventually, break out, retest, and continue that move higher. That's what we're looking for here. Now, when we take a look at Bitcoin, today's close was at 112.220. So pretty solid close. That close was inside of the structure that we had drawn out previously. A nice move up. We'll see if the trend can continue or if this is just like a dead cat bounce. Hopefully it's a solid move that starts to revert this entire piece here and start pushing up higher. Like I said, we did close inside of the structure, so hopefully we use it as a floor right now. And this turns out to be a wick, and we start to continue the move higher. On the weekly, we pushed all the way down to 108, found support off of this key structure that we had drawn out a while back. This structure was built off of that 2024 run in December and that January peak, along with this May run up. So that was a very, very key level of resistance prior, and now it's acting as a very strong level of support. That's how we came up with this piece right here, and it looks like we got a strong bounce off of it. We'll see if we come back for another retest or if that one retest was enough. And right now it's looking pretty solid as we have that nice engulfing candle to the upside. Hopefully we can get another one and start continuing higher and playing with this next range right here. Ultimately, we want to be inside of this range over here. This is the ideal range that you want to be in. You want to be inside of there, playing with the top of that range, and eventually breaking and using that as support and continuing. But right now, we still have these levels above our head that are going to be acting as resistance. We have to break through these if we want to get to that top level. Like I always say, it's stair stepping through. You have to stair step your way up, so when you do come crashing back down, you have more support and the crash isn't as severe. Because if you go straight up, once the move is over, you're going to come straight back down. So this is a good thing to see. You want to see this sideways action in these moves higher. Now here on the monthly, we wanted to get a close at least at 115.8 or higher. That was the goal, but we'll see if it ends up playing out. We still have practically 2 days. We have 1 day and 23 hours. That would be the ideal scenario, closing at 116 pretty much or higher, because we haven't had a monthly close higher than that green line here. So if we could get that, that's going to start to indicate higher prices and potentially filling these wicks. But right now, it doesn't look like we're getting that. It looks like we're actually showing a little bit of weakness in terms of the monthly. So we got severe rejection in this zone right here where we've already seen 2 major wicks here on the monthly. And that lines up with this key structure here off of this trend line. We'll see if we can continue this move and eventually break these wicks and this trend line and use it as support. But right now it's been acting as severe resistance in December, January, and then these 2 wicks over here from July and August. So we're going to be keeping our eye out on that for sure. That's going to be a big one in 2 days. So we'll definitely go over that again and see where we close. And on the 3-month, kind of having the same idea. For the 3-month, we want to close at least where we opened or higher. So ideally above 107 or higher would be good. And this area would be nice as well because this is still filling this previous wick right here, even though we saw rejection. Maybe if we close right here at this 112 mark for the 3-month, maybe this following candle will push back down for support off of this to make sure we want to hold that, and then wick fill that, which would be really nice to see because you're talking about pushing all the way up to around 125 on the 3-month candle, which would be, the final quarter of the cycle. Theoretically, it doesn't have to be, but based off of historics, that should be the last run up for Bitcoin. So we'll be watching for that, of course. On the total market cap for crypto, we've had our accumulation phase and our run-ups. As you can see, the green is the accumulation phase where you kind of just go sideways, slightly upward, and then you have your absolute ripping phase right here. And we haven't seen it yet to see it this cycle. We'll be keeping our eye out for that. But the previous 2 cycles, we have seen that in 17, 21, and then if it were to continue the historics every 4 years, then 25 should be at that time. But that is a very, very large move to happen for the entire crypto market. And you're talking about a 270% move for the entire crypto market. The market cap is currently sitting at 3.8 trillion. You're talking about this thing running up to $13 trillion. So obviously you would need altcoin season to kick in to the full effect for that to even be an idea. And we are far from that at the moment, as we haven't seen these major drops here on Bitcoin dominance. We are slowly dropping, or I wouldn't say slowly, but we're dropping pretty quickly, but we haven't seen the severe drop all the way down to this 45 region where we can really start talking about, okay, altcoin season's in full effect, and this is the real move right here. So we're gonna keep our eye out for that and make sure that keep you guys posted, because once you get this move here, you're looking at your potential local top for the cycle, and maybe it pushes out to 2026, but we'll see if it holds true to the every 4 years, 21 or 17, 21, and 25. It might end up being 26. Remember, all these cycles are similar, but they're not the exact same. So they might rhyme, but they're slightly different. They have their own, tone or beat that they go to. And when we take a look at tether dominance, we did have that spike down close to the blue line, but we didn't quite touch it. So we're not sure if that was our move down like we saw over here, but it was relatively close. And we do know that whenever we get that spike down to the blue line, that's typically the top for Bitcoin. For anybody who hasn't seen that, I'll overlay it really quick. You can see these local tops for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's in pink. You can see the local tops every time that this blue line has some kind of contact. This time it wasn't, it didn't actually come into contact with it, but it was pretty close. And you can see that one here. And we'll find out if this spike down here was that top over here. So we're going to be wondering if this was that move for our top right there. We'll be looking for sure. Of course, we won't know until later on at the end of the cycle. I definitely want you guys to be open to the idea that that could have been the top, but I mean, based off of global liquidity, how the other cycles have worked, it shouldn't have been the top, but it's possible. Now, we did find a little bit of rejection off of this key structure here, which is a good thing because we pushed all the way up to 474, which was showing a lot of weakness for Bitcoin. But now, seeing that rejection is a very good sign. I would expect some kind of pushback up, so maybe a little bit of weakness on Bitcoin for another retest and then a continuation down, or at least coming back down to this structure here at 432, which should signal some kind of upside for Bitcoin if we were to push up and then have that pretty decent fall down from 459 to 432. That should bring a nice little move for Bitcoin. Maybe nothing too significant, but a little bit of upside. We'll start to see major moves on Bitcoin if we can actually get a close on the weekly beneath the structure at 415. Then we can start talking about potentially retesting off of here and pushing down to this trend line potentially, or to this blue line here for our local top for Bitcoin this cycle. That's pretty much all I have for you guys. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe. Don't forget to comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.